Something the cat wants, you can have tuna on a pizza. Well, no, there's other meats. There may be a controversial fruit on one of these pizzas as well. But, you know, I'll keep this a PG-13 stream and not consume this vile concoction in front of you all. That's how I live every time my wife and kids leave town. Oh, yeah. Oh, so you know what? We're going to use what we learned over the past 2 days, and we're going to make a background around being a brewmaster. And we're actually going to start by what is already in the book and use that for inspiration. And we'll modify things from there if we don't just take our own. Pardon me. Pineapple. You know, Forsaken. Look! Tomato is technically a fruit, right? That's all I said. That's all I said. So, whatever it is, I will definitely not eat it in front of the camera. Maybe I'll eat it during the break. Oh, but here's this. Spinach and feta. Spinach and feta, I asked them for a little bit of extra cheese, and it's on a thin crust. Oh, mwah, molto bene. And she's like, oh, I'm just going to slowly drip down over the edge towards the pizza. All right, well, cats are cats, right? Alrighty, so, Chapter 4. Oh, spinach and feta and chicken, one of my faves. You are a gentleman and a scholar, Daily. In Chapter 4 of the Player's Handbook, we find our section on backgrounds. And backgrounds are one of the 3 essential qualities of your character. Your character sits atop a stool of race, class, and background. Do-do-do-do. And so I want to make some custom content with you all, and you all are very welcome to offer suggestions as we go. To make something that reflects what we've learned about brewing, beer, its culture, etc. As we are going to make a Brewmaster background in this part 1 and then part 2, let's work on a cleric domain, right? What makes me think cats are cats? Well, if I trust them, they tell me they're cats. But I don't know if you can trust cats. I asked for some extra cheese. Look at that, completely coated. And she's stepping on my shoulder. Here, you want some cheese? Bye. Alright, customizing a background. You might want to tweak some of the features of a background so it better fits your character or the campaign setting. To customize a background, you can replace one feature with any other one, choose any 2 skills, and choose a total of 2 tool proficiencies or languages from the sample backgrounds. You can either use the equipment package from your background, or spend coin on gear as described in Chapter 5. So it being a food lover qualify, and specifically the person would want to find and make drinks that fits very well with different foods. You could have a background similar to that, yeah. You could even base it around... again, they're prompting you, base it off something that we've already that we've already made. Does that mean you have to? No, this is a game of imagination and homebrew fantasy. But what might fit well for that would be, like we're gonna consult Guild Artisan as a basis for what we're gonna be doing with Brewmaster. But for something like that, I think that Outlander Outlander could be good. Whoop, I passed by it. Right, because you have an excellent memory for maps and geography, and you can always recall the general layout of terrain. You can use it as a basis, right? You have an excellent memory for flavors and taste profiles, and et cetera and so forth. Now, for Guild Artisan, you can have a Brewmaster already in D&D. You know, in a general sense that you belong to a Brewers Guild. Because, look, you're going to get proficiency with artisan tools. You're probably going to pick Brewing Supplies. And you'll get a set of artisan's tools of your choice, probably Brewing Supplies, a letter of introduction, and so forth. You're a well-established part of the mercantile world, freed by talent and wealth from the constraints of feudal societal order. This is a lot of the things that we were talking about when we're building that town in our custom content earlier in the week. As a member of your guild, you know the skills needed to create finished items from raw materials, as well as the principles of trade and good business practices. The question now is whether you abandon your trade for adventure or take the extra effort to weave adventuring and trade together. And you know what? As an Outlander or a modified Outlander, Kames, that might mean you're willing to go out into the wilds and explore, try and hunt down new meats, new herbs and spices, even taste different kinds of salt, because salt is flavored by the minerals that are around it. You know, like, have you ever seen or had pink Himalayan salt as compared to regular table salt, or as even compared to sea salt? Well, Kames, I will be eating spinach and feta pizza parts in front of you. So I'm trying not to be rude, but dinner calls. As an established and respected member of a guild, you can rely on certain benefits that membership provides. And it's going into the power of the guild. And so, with this background, it's focusing on you as a guild member and what the guild does for you as the background aspects of the game that it'll take care of. And so, using this as a basis, I wanted to break out just being a part of a brewer's guild, or a vintner or a distiller's guild. And I wanted to focus on what would make someone a brewmaster, right? Yes, Kames, Himalayan pink salt. Alright, Forsaken. Pink salt and brown sugar, we live in an insane world. And yet both those things are completely like the raw natural colors of those substances. Oh, bonjour, Santa. Welcome. I'm eating pizza and we're talking about becoming a brewmaster. To make all kinds of pardon me. I'm manging in front of La Camera. In a D&D world, we're starting with the concept of a guild artisan. But what can we do to zoom in and make, in particular, a brewmaster? Yes, it is spinach and feta cheese. And instead of tomato sauce, it's an Alfredo sauce as the base, on a thin crust. So, I have all of this already set up and ready to go, right? Bob Ross has his double-primed pre-stretch canvas, and you know what? I wanted to get that going for us here to save a little bit of time. So, there's some sort of a paragraph or two that talks about what is this, right? Just a couple sentences. What is a brewmaster? So this is based on the things that we've been talking about the past couple nights. If you weren't around or don't remember, I have some documents. I'm going off of what I remember, but if you pick up something perhaps that I didn't put down or you think should be included, whether we talked about it over the last 2 nights or you just know about this personally, throw it out there. Let's build this together. Because like with anything that we're building on stream here, this is going to end up on our Discord, and you can use it. I mean, with your DM's approval. So you've had a past of working in a brewer's guild for a while, however, sent out to help run a brewery. There you would have a mentor who owns said brewery. You may have received training in an established guild. I think what we're going to do here, though, Kames, and we can include that perhaps as a note, I want the Brewmaster to stand alone instead of being a part of a guild, because honestly, we should pick Guildmaster at that point. Or, I'm sorry, Guild Artisan. Welcome back, Forsaken. You know what else is good for cats, by the way, because she's lurking? Cat treats. It'd be a good and well-known brewery, but after being there for a while, something bad would have happened. Now you have to rebuild it from scratch, having now lost your mentor. So that would be like an adventures prompt, but I don't know, that's a little too specific to put in for a description as a background. A spray bottle? She's not being bad. I have a spray bottle, but she doesn't deserve one right now. Oh, you are the inheritor of a set of ancient tools and skills passed down for many generations through your region, people, or family. Your role in society is pivotal to fuel the engines of peace, war, faith, and economics alike. Let's see. What are some other aspects of being a brewer that we had talked about here? Your name or your technique, perhaps even your name, carries weight in many circles, many social circles. And often you will be propositioned for advice or economic opportunities. You were forced out of your old lands by creatures that destroyed what you had, so now you're looking for a place to settle. We can use stuff like that as bonds, I think, Forsaken. Now, Guild Artisan has the skill proficiencies of Insight and Persuasion. And there's nothing that could stop us from mimicking those if we thought that Insight and Persuasion were going to be key features of this build. In Chapter 4 here, it suggests sticking to the skills that have been put forth in the other backgrounds, in the other 13 backgrounds. And you may have noticed, but the various knowledges, the various well, nah, I shouldn't say not all of them. Religion's included. No, I guess history's there too. Maybe they are. And I'm just forgetting, going for the physical ones. Does Sage get Arcana then? Arcana and history. Oh, so almost everything is up for grabs then. But I don't think anyone gets nature. And that's one that I really wanted to put in there, because as we were discussing, having a knowledge of nature is very important for a brewer. So you can judge the quality of your yeast, the quality of the grains. So you can perhaps make hybrid forms of this. Medicine and religion. Oh, Kames, thank you. Well, cheers to you. Here's water. Bip, there we go. So I'm going to put nature as one of the two skills that this background is going to give you, because I think it's very important to know the world around you. You have to know ecology, right? You should know about water and water sources. Remember, there's a difference between a knowledge of nature and survival. Now, if we wanted, we could probably even throw survival in there as well. The skills we're providing this background are going to flavor what type of a brewmaster. So, for example, we're not emphasizing a guild, though a guild could be sort of implied. In this case, it would almost be like she's sitting on top of the pizza box, therefore I can't open it. But she looks terribly proud of herself, and her butt is probably warm. How many bits to turn the water into ale? I wish I could tell you, Kames. I can turn water into Coke Zero if I really wanted to. But for someone that we're building is like the inheritor of this, not necessarily through a guild, but is someone who on his or her own can stand up and do this job. You know, maybe instead of through a guild, it's been through a family secret, or you know, a brewery selects people, almost like a private university. So it's not a guild per se, but it's more private. Knowledge nature is going to be important here. What else might you think would be important to someone who has to take into consideration things such as carpentry, right? For making barrels and such, for measuring the quality and the quantity of various ingredients, the waters, the grains, sugar. What about someone who has to procure? Look, as a brewmaster, while these words didn't exist back then, there's a concept called a supply chain. You are a supply chain manager as a brewmaster in a city or a region that makes various beers. All right, Dark Wolf, welcome back. History, you are 2 paws ahead of me, Dark Wolf. I was going to get to history, Because, hey, Eltane, good to see you again. I was going to say history because there's a culture, right? Not just a fermentation, a yeast culture. There's a culture and a history itself that go along, right? If we're going on the bend that this is traditional, or that, you know, different monasteries or different royal families and such, because remember, beer was paid as taxes, we learned. History, I think, would be an important skill to have, because you could recall, you know, can you necessarily remember all the coats of arms of every noble family in your country? Maybe not. But you sure know that family X drinks this and family Y drinks that. And maybe it's your beers that are keeping them, you know, sated. Yeah, welcome, Eltane. It's great to have you in here again. So, Dark Wolf, I was throwing a couple out there. I agree with you for history. If any of you, though, think differently, think that we should have a social skill, but I don't know if we have to, right? People, from how we're weighting this, are going to be coming to us anyway, and it's because of our knowledge or our ability to, to sense. I could make an argument for something like medicine, because of the nature of treating and fostering, you know, the microorganisms and such. Medicine could be an interesting mix. Actually, Kimspec says, would medicine be something a brewer would have to know a bit about? I guess knowing about the effects of herbs and such would go under nature. Yeah, like knowing... Remember, intelligence is book smarts. Wisdom is common sense or street smarts. If you have survival, you can find food because you know that the red berries that grow in winter are good. If you have knowledge nature, that will tell you the name of the berry, the growing season, and some other things, right? Because it's more the scientific classification. So, Kames, I think we had a similar idea in that I think you could get away with adding medicine to here if you didn't want history. Eltane says, I just did a test scenario with my DM as a level 20 version of my Barbarian Warlock, and he soloed an ancient red dragon. Ooh, how did that happen? Wasn't the dragon, like, flying around breathing fire at you, or what was going on with that? Alright. Now, per the paragraph here that talks about customizing a background, it says choose any 2 skills and choose a total of 2 tool proficiencies or languages from the sample backgrounds. I think that we are going to get a tool proficiency, at least 1. Now, I want to ask you all this. With the concept that we are developing, do we give the tool proficiencies in just brewer supplies, and then perhaps a language, because, look, you should probably speak another language if you want to understand other people's brewing techniques. If you want to trade with the kingdom next door, right? If you want to secure... some foresty flavors from elves, you should be able to speak Elven. If you want to get some mushrooms for an umami kick from dwarves, you should speak Dwarven. And there's different recipes you can read. Or do we double down and we go something like brewer supplies and an herbalism kit, so that not only do we have the supplies to make beer, which as we were exploring, the brewer supplies probably actually include a kind of a component pouch of some flavors and some yeast starters, as well as like a barrel and things like that. But should we also then have an herbalism kit so that we can, crush? It gives us a mortar and pestle. It gives us proficiency with mixing and matching. And we forego the extra language that would come from being a brewer itself as a background. I want to lean towards... I see there's activity, but I'm not looking at it yet. In case I sync up with you all. I want to lean towards giving him a brewer supplies and an herbalism kit. Because, again, the flavor is people are going to come to you. Or you can carry the clout if you don't already speak another language or two based on your race or your region or whatever. That you'll be able to have that ability to send people out to find it. But let's see what you all are saying here. Santa says a flying barbarian. Eltane, okay, so he was allowed a few powerful potions, and it went like this. Turn 1, blink plus frenzied rage. Turn 2, potion of flying. Basically, I got really lucky with all my blinks. It only hit me twice with its breath, and I smacked it a ton with my +2 glaive. Well, that's good. I tried again though without the potions. If you wanna raw test your character, not to take your victory away from you, but is your character always going to have access to those potions, or did the potions win the battle over your character? Kames, what races would best be known for their brewing? Well, as Darkwolf said, dwarves probably, because dwarves, as a racial option, when you're building a dwarf, they suggest you take smithing tools, mason's tools, or brewing supply proficiency. However, as we were exploring, brewing is in culture. It's in almost all, in some form or fashion, every human culture on this planet. It probably wouldn't be too far of a stretch then to imagine that elves and dwarves have a brewing culture, humans have a brewing culture, or as Diadems is recommending over here, halflings probably make their own special brew differently. Different techniques, different materials. Maybe the halflings are known for mead because they're beekeepers. Nah, he won't. He does have access to Eldritch Blast with Agonizing Blast, though. Almost surely not enough for said dragon, but still decent at range. I don't care too much about combat with him, though. He's the one socially based barb ever made. Hey, don't discount the social influence of a barbarian. And not just because, your barbarian can look all savage and mean and intimidate people. Barbarians can be very influential in other ways, too. There you go, mead with elderberries, right? And so brewing itself would be a language. So in this case, what would you all like to do? What's your concept? If we give the Brewmaster brewer supplies, do we give the Brewmaster another tool proficiency of some kind? Or do we go with a language? What do you think would be more important to this concept? Diadems, you say a language? Everyone would have their own, but what could be most commonly recognized as a brewing race would depend on whose drinks are most widely enjoyed. Imagine you have to stay studying the language of such a race. I hear 2 for language. One of your choice. Okay. Equipment. I think we can go back to Guild Artisan as inspiration, and we can certainly look around to some of the others. You know, for example, a hunting trap. Well, we probably don't have a hunting trap. But I do believe that we are going to start with Brewer's Supplies. Language makes the most sense to you too. I imagine any sort of artisan would also want to peddle their goods, would benefit from an extra language. You all are making good points. And I'm happy to be able to have these discussions with you to work them through. You know, what makes the most sense? If I was playing this, I might play this differently than you. So how would you play this class or this background? Brewer Supplies. Ooh. We talked about inheriting, by the way. It says you're the inheritor of a set of ancient tools and skills. A custom hydrometer, which is probably a trinket of some kind that has been designed to try and engage the alcohol level of your brew. Maybe even your temperature if you want to kind of have your trinket do double duty. What else might you have? A scroll case stuffed full of notes from your studies or prayers. All right. What do nobles get? Fine clothes, signet ring, a scroll of pedigree. Hunting trap, trophy from an animal you killed. A bottle of black ink, a quill, a small knife, letter from your dead colleague posing a question you have not yet been able to answer, and a set of common clothes. So probably some kind of a recipe journal. Bottle of black ink and a quill. A set of common clothes. I don't think a brewmaster would necessarily wear fine clothes. If you're working, and maybe even if you're traveling too, maybe a set of traveler's clothes would be good as well. Hi, Civil Hermit. Welcome. All right, Brewer Supplies. A custom hydrometer, a trinket, effectively, that serves this function. A recipe journal, bottle of black ink, a quill, a set of traveler's clothes. And really, this would be like a blank, right? If you're setting out on an adventure, you want to write down ingredients or the like. Traveler's clothes and a belt pouch with 10 gold. Do you think that's a fair amount of equipment given to you, and then a starting amount that you're also given? The first thing I think for brewmasters is the WoW subclass. To me, that represents an affinity for neutrality among factions, which could factor into the feature. I'm not exactly sure how though. And you know what? I'm glad you're thinking ahead. The feature could then very well be a way, instead of just introducing yourself for economic opportunity like the Guild Master has as its feature. Alright, none of you are allowed to look at this pizza. Turn your head if a particular topping combination does not agree with you, okay? Fair warning. Then again, I do probably like the supplies to gather and process the resources you need also. If I had the option to pick, I would probably get something like cook's utensils, Alchemists Supplies, herbalism kit rather than the language. But that I feel would probably be more from the person rather than the background. That could be. And although Kames, when we were talking about the process of brewing itself is ridiculously easy as we were going over that process. So, cook's utensils, it wouldn't hurt, but you really don't need much more than an empty barrel, water, sugar, and grain. Or even just honey and water. Alchemist Supplies? Now I think we're getting, if we want to have someone who's more of an aficionado, right? Someone who experiments, maybe even the herbalism kit that we're talking about. And hey, I mean, this is custom. If you want to pilot this with a character, talk to your DM, or just say Brewer Supplies and either an herbalism kit or a language of your choice. This is our game, right? We're playing the game we want to play. Hi, Alexander. Welcome. Forsaken, I'll send you a slice with some minis. I can't guarantee how fresh it'll be. So, the feature of a background is something that makes life a little bit easier, right? This is something that you can do in the background as a way to find food, shelter, or it would play directly into a storyline of some kind. For instance, the discovery of the hermit. The discovery of the hermit doesn't guarantee you food and shelter, but you better heckin' believe, pardon me, you better heckin' believe that the discovery is going to play a large factor in the plot of the campaign that you're going for. Given these different ways to interact with the story via your feature, is it background stuff or is it plot? I think the Brewmaster would be more background stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Because Kames, I think we can work in that idea, right? If we're going with so many cultures have beer, are willing to trade it, or can talk about it, I think in a way, you're not really a political negotiator, but your feature might have a way that makes you a little bit more friendly or accepted wherever you go. Yeah, I get what you're going for, Kames. And that makes sense. And I'm glad you did make that distinction. Your background is taken by your character. Your character shouldn't be shoehorned into a background. And so you might take this background, Kames, but say, I'm making this personal decision to... I'm taking this personal decision to further customize my character in other ways. Hey, Pneumatica, welcome. People want to try your drinks. You know what comes to mind? If we come up here to Entertainer, you can always find a place to perform Usually in an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theater, blah, blah, blah. At such a place, you receive free lodging and food of a modest and comfortable standard. Your performance makes you something of a local figure. When strangers recognize you in town where you have performed, they typically take a liking to you. I think we can use that as a basis for our feature. Or if that doesn't work, how about this? Boil this noodle in your pot. Folk hero. Since you come from the ranks of the common folk, or rather the common folk will raise their cups to you, you fit in among them with ease. You can find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among other commoners, unless you have shown yourself to be a danger to them. They will shield you from the law, or anyone else searching for you, though they will not risk their lives for you. I could possibly say the same about position of privilege. Being a brewmaster, there's a lot of people. Clergy comes to you. Secular government comes to you. The common folk come to you as well. And in its own way, your presence can open doors. So if we draw on these concepts, which could include being a folk hero, maybe you do have friends in low places. There's a particular bard who sung a song about that. What sounds good if you are to be a brewmaster? Not just a member of a guild, a brewmaster. Good, Eltane. And it seems like you put on one heck of a show, too. You provide new drinks that mixes up the everyday taste of the common day stuff, and they are willing to house you in return. Possibly. If you are the type to rub elbows, right, with the common folk. I imagine people, in general, in such a setting, would often eat the same stuff and drink the same drinks all the time. That's true. This brewmaster can be kind of like a Johnny Appleseed, right? He's planting beer recipes as he goes. I kind of like the feature of entertainer, because you can still rub elbows with all strata of people. Nobles love a good show, as do commoners. And this could get you put up in a brewing, like in a noble's house, in a commoner's house. So I think we can use by popular demand and just modify it slightly. And no, I'm not eating my crusts. I dip those later in marinara. All right, so let's modify this. I don't know if we want to call it by popular demand, but come up with a name for the general sentiment here. You can always find a place to brew, be it in a monastery, house, or palace, or I guess castle. At such a place, you receive free lodging, and food of a modest or comfortable standard, depending on the quality of the establishment. As long as you brew or teach each day. In addition, your recipes makes you something of a local figure. When strangers recognize you in a town where your brew has been enjoyed, and this gets into the concept over here. You might only, to the victor go the spoils. You want your name, you want your brew, you want your brand out there. And so if you're out there promoting, this is my brand of beer, that's your performance, right? That's your reputation. And what was brought up in chat earlier is absolutely correct. You want to go even into other lands and say, here, try my beer. I understand you have your own, and that's fine. Try mine. Believe in mine. When strangers recognize you in a town where your brew has been enjoyed, they typically take a liking to you. So what would we call this if we want to have that by popular demand? I mean, that goes with an entertainer. Would this be something like a renown of some kind? Like a renowned brewer or a popular something maybe about crafting? Kames says, I have like 7 different tasting. It's called squash. Anyway, I like to mix up the taste of what I drink myself, so I can imagine the appreciation of something new and tasty is such a rarity. Nobles may themselves hunt for new and interesting. Yes, that's a very good point, Kames. Oh, snap, Coffee Cat. Thank you very much and welcome to you. Well, to you and the others who came along with you as well. What would the people call you as a person who walks around doing this? Yeah, so you are a brewmaster. I don't know if there's necessarily like maybe like a tutor, of some variety. Maybe this can be called Friends in All Places. Because it's also helping to set lore. Is it a rule that you make friends in all places? No, but the name of the feature would make that implication that you are more of a friendlier person. You want to communicate and you want to make these connections. Hey, Coffee, welcome, welcome. How's your Inktober going? What would the people call... Okay, yeah, going back to Kames. Alright, suggested characteristics. We're at entertainer, let's take a look at that, right? Successful entertainers have to be able to capture and hold an audience's attention, so they need to have flamboyant or forceful personalities. They're inclined toward the romantic and often cling to high-minded ideals about the practice of art and the appreciation of beauty. By the way, if we wanted, we could come up with some kind of a specialty, right? That would come in between the equipment and the feature, right? Entertainers get routines. Folk heroes get a defining event. Guild artisans have their guild business. Though there's some nobles. A noble's a noble. So it's really up to us. There's not necessarily a hard and fast rule. As we learned, making beer isn't necessarily that difficult. It's more about the knowledge you have to get the different ingredients together. So I don't know if there's necessarily a specialty, right? That you would go into as a brewmaster. I guess if we really wanted to, we could split it out and say that you make mead with honey, or you make a grain-based, or you specialize in one variety of beer over another. At the same time, beer is beer. The concept of beer is beer. If we wish, though, because Guild Artisan says brewers, distillers, and vintners, that might be where we can make a difference, right? Do you specialize in brewing? Do you specialize in distillation? Because, you know, we're talking about beer, but you still need a lot of these elements to make stronger alcohol, various spirits. Or if you want to make wine, you would still be able to find, if people know you for making good wine. Well, I mean, the name Brewmaster is kind of it implies beer. Could we put that in here? You know what, like 6 different things that you could possibly brew up? I don't see why not. Or you could look at it like this, in that, well, I don't know. Let's try it, right? Let's just delve into it. Why am I sitting here just going, hem ha, hem ha? Let's just do it. What's it gonna hurt, right? Let's call this brewing culture, and we'll call this I don't know. If we come up with more, we come up with more. Let's go with a D6. D6 brewing culture. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Going well. Yeah, you finished day 5. That was the chicken illustration, right? By the way, if any of you want to see art happen in front of your eyes, I mean, Coffee Cat does a great job. In fact, he's done art. He's made an art submission for the channel. He is participating in Inktober, and he has made a drawing. Well, I mean, just calling it a drawing is not doing it justice. But he has made an illustration of the party in which he plays on Tuesdays. Let's see. Brewing culture, so we have, I guess, meads, beers, ciders, spirits, wines, and, I wonder if there'd be something else. Maybe Oh, you know what? What if this goes into what Kames was talking about? You're a brewmaster and you can make things, but really your specialty, it's in making, but it's more like a custom taste to order. So so this variety, if you rolled a 6, doesn't necessarily mean that you have the recipe for the best dwarven beer or whatever. It could mean that you are a in wines it's called being a sommelier. It would be a I don't know what would be like a term, a fusion brewer, an experimenter, some kind of like nouveau style. I guess we could just put an experimenter. So you know the traditional styles, but yet you're going out there and you are making these mashups. You're making the what we were talking about, the half mead, half beer, or the half beer, half cider. You're trying different techniques. So I guess that can work, right? Yeah. So someone who recognizes the traditions, but is willing to try and adapt to them. That could work. I mean, heck, if we even wanted to, I guess we could get like super silly, and because some of these are D8 or even higher, and go, as far as brewing, it could even be for for religious reasons. I'm sorry, hang on a second here. I gotta see what's going on. Right? And so instead of brewing for the mass public or for an economic reason, you would actually, like an adapter. You would brew, you'd brew exclusively for a monastery. The monastery hired you, or you're a part of their order, and you're brewing for them along their standards and at their, so we have meads, beers. I guess in that extent, then you are like a noble. So I guess we have the religious. We have an experimenter. We have all these different ways that you could. So I guess a noble brewer or something like that. Things that we can investigate and look into. And if we don't like these, guess what? We highlight whatever we don't like and we hit the backspace button. This is why if you want to create content at home, do it. Word processors are cheap and easy. We use OpenOffice here. It doesn't get less expensive than free. And it'll do all the stuff you want it to do. If you like something, add it. If you don't like it, take it back. Alright, friends in all places. Suggested characteristics. A folk hero is one of the common people, for better or worse. Most folk heroes look on their humble origins as a virtue, not a shortcoming, and their home communities remain very important to them. Guild Artisans are among the most ordinary people in the world until they set down their tools and take up the adventuring career. They understand the value of hard work and the importance of a community, but they're vulnerable to sins of greed and covetousness. Some hermits are well suited to a life of seclusion, whereas others chafe against it and long for company. While they embrace solitude or long to escape it, the solitary life shapes their attitudes and ideals. A few are driven slightly mad by their years apart from society. Nobles are born and raised to a very different lifestyle than most people ever experience, and their personalities reflect that upbringing. A noble title comes with a plethora of bonds, responsibilities to family, to other nobles, to the people entrusted to the family's care, or even the title itself. But this responsibility is often a good way to undermine a noble. So it looks like these are all having a good, bad, and it's explaining things over a couple sentences. You have been instilled with information that has the possibility to cause or solve all the world's problems. Often, this can make you the center of attention for praise, or even the target of espionage or worse by rivals in this fundamentally essential role in society. Right, because we're talking about different beers, different preferences. Between Luke and Greg, there's a bit of a friendly rivalry between the tastes that each of them have. And I wouldn't be surprised. Look, someone wants to sneak into your brewery and steal your recipes, wants to steal a sample of your yeast, wants to take you out because you are possibly an economic or political influencer. You can be important to people of all walks of life, from the highest thrones to the lowest bar stools in a dive. I'm trying to come up with stuff, but I feel as if my head is swimming in sludge. This is probably rather good training for a poor brain who is not used to coming up with stuff. Yeah, Kames, and look, you get that sludge out. Just throw ideas out there. What do you got? A couple electrons? Come on, forget about it. Throw stuff out there. Something might stick. We'll see. D&D tomorrow? All right, Forsaken. Thank you for hanging out with us. Hey, Electro Dolly, welcome. We are making a custom background of a brewer. And we're using the other backgrounds as inspiration and guide, and as a guide, just as the PHP suggests we do. Because look, this is our game, our world. We can create our own content. Right? Dolly, you want to make a brewmaster here that specializes in fireball whiskey like you were talking about last night? Maybe you want to delve into spirits and distillation. All right, now we come to the personality traits. 8 different traits, from which 2 are going to be selected by any character in order to flesh them out, right? To give them a couple points to consider when they're making some kind of an ideal. Let's take Noble, for example, for personality traits. My eloquent flattery makes everyone I talk to feel like the most wonderful and important person in the world. Aww. The common folk love me for my kindness and generosity. Okay, I can see a Noble with that as an aspect. No one could doubt by looking at my regal bearing that I am a cut above the unwashed masses. Okay, kind of neutral, very self-important, but hey, you're a Noble. I take great pains to always look my best and follow the latest fashions. Does that talk about Noble to you? I don't like to get my hands dirty, and I won't be caught dead in unsuitable accommodations. I mean, we could draw inspiration one line at a time from other ones too. We don't necessarily have to make our own. Despite my noble birth, I do not place myself above other folk. We all have the same blood. Aha, a very down-to-earth noble. Those exist as well. My favor, once lost, is lost forever. Or, finally, if you do me an injury, I will crush you, ruin your name, and salt your fields. A good character can have that as a personality trait, by the way. That's not inherently evil, an attitude to have. I'm driven by wanderlust. I watch over my friends as if they're a litter of newborn pups. So we can throw different personality traits out here. So for instance, I keep my tools and workspace immaculate, as well as myself, as a clean environment makes for a better finished product. If you mess with and insult my beer, oh, I'll be coming for you. Yeah, we could even put something that's a little bit more. Hi, hey, it's good to see you. It's been a little while, but I have something I can send out to you. And sorry for any background noise, as I'm playing babysitter tonight, even though I'm broadcasting. So I may have to get up and take care of things here, depending on a big mood that is going off to the side of me here. Yeah, I mean, we can just, yeah. Let's see. All right, so if we want, we can put, I jealously guard all my trade secrets, making me responsible and trustworthy. Let's see, what else can we put in here? Let's look at some of the other ones. Oh, snap! Thank you, Joyce, for the resubscription. Yeah, salt the fields daily. That's a very pleasant. Osaka-chi. Oh my gosh. And true. Oni-chan the Weeb Hunter is just gifting. Oh my gosh. Gifting all the subs. True Aesop, Nebraska Dave, and Electro Dolly are all getting. Yeah, thank you, Oni-chan. You've noticed me. Aw, that's really awesome of you. Let's see. Other personalities. I've been isolated for so long I rarely speak. I'm utterly serene. Oh, we can even do something. Oh, I know it's a lot going on here. And oh, look at that cool emote that Oni-chan has. Just thank you so much. I'm not sure if a personality or a flaw. I do like to sample the product. Oh, that's. In fact, you know what? You know what? We'll get into this, right? Let's get into what does this mean? Ideals, bonds, flaws, etc. Let's take a break, and when I come back, we'll start into the second half of this project. Okay? Take a little bit of time, and we'll pick this up where we left off again.